Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we are here today with lesson number 15 in our incredible tutorial series where you are teaching the robots who's boss. I'm going to need you to pour yourself a nice enormous mug of iced coffee. That would be strong black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And I'm going to need you to get out your robot gear. We are operating on the most excellent Elegoo Smart Car version 3.0. If you don't have your gear yet, look in the description down below. There is a link over to the identical hardware that I am using. And as you're getting out your gear, as always, I want to give a shout out to you guys who are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your support and your encouragement that keeps this great content coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, look down in the description. There is a link over to my Patreon account, and think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what we are going to learn today. In today's lesson, which is lesson number 15, we're going to be following on to the work that we did in lesson number 13 and lesson number 14. And so if you guys have not done those earlier lessons, you should probably go back and at least be familiar with what we were doing there. But what we did in lesson number 14 is we've got an app installed on our smartphones. I showed you the installation process for the Apple iPhone, but for the Android devices it would be very similar. And then I showed how we could send commands to the smart car over Bluetooth. Excuse me. Now in the earlier lessons, like lesson number 13 and some of the earlier lessons, we were doing some pretty sophisticated control of the smart car through the infrared remote. But we found out that the infrared remote has very limited range. It's susceptible to noise and spurious signals, so it doesn't always get the command. And if the car isn't pointing right towards you, that little infrared receiver window on the car doesn't see the signal. So you could drive the car out there, you could turn it around, and then you lose connection with the car because the photons aren't hitting the little receiver. So I think we learned a lot from the infrared remote, but we want to go to something that is more reliable. So we want to go to Bluetooth. In lesson 14, we kind of showed you how to give a very simple command, like I think we just did forward and backwards with the Bluetooth. And what your homework was for this week was to go in and kind of fully program it over Bluetooth, like we did in lesson number 13, where we could set the distance, we could set the speed, we could go forward, we could go backwards, and we could turn. And we could do those things all with custom programmed speeds and with speeds and distances. And so what your homework assignment was for today was to get all of that programmed up on Bluetooth. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to kind of go through my solution to your homework. And you guys let me know down in the comments below, were you able to get this working? Did you have good luck? Did you not have good luck? Okay. I'm going to switch on over here to a different view. And then what I will tell you guys is that if you didn't figure this out already, the easiest place to start was in lesson number 13, because in lesson number 13 we already had it programmed. We already had the Arduino program written where you could set from the infrared remote the speed or the velocity, the distance that you wanted to travel, and then you could control it with this little infrared remote. Well, I think the easiest place to start is with that working program. So what I need you to do is go to the most excellent www.toptechboy.com. Once you're there, you can come to this happy little search bar, and you can search on Robotic Training Lesson 13. Then you should come up to this page, and once you're on this page, you should then be able to come down here and grab that code. So I'm going to right mouse click and copy, and then I need you to call up a fresh new Arduino IDE, And here we're always starting with bare minimum. And now that I have that software copied, that program copied from the website, I'm going to do a Control A and a Control V. And now we are starting where we had left off on lesson number 13. So let's come up here and let's see what we need to do to this code to get it to work with Bluetooth. And again, this will be using a lot that we learned in lesson number 14. So I'm going to come up here to the top, and some of the stuff is, you know that we are not going to be using the infrared remote. So let's get rid of all this code that is setting up the remote, because we are not using that. We are saying goodbye to our happy little infrared remote. It was a good remote. We learned a lot from it, but we've outgrown it. Okay, so now we are going to come down here. And one thing is that we will be sending a command from the smartphone, so we are going to need a new variable, and that new variable we are going to call CMD, and that is going to be a single character, a char, and it is going to be CMD, like that. And let's not forget our colons. I guess that technically is a semicolon, right? I got some stuff in my way in the keyboard. Let's see. All right, so this will be good here. So that is the command. Now we come down here, and this is a couple of commands as we begin the serial.begin. We don't need to enable the infrared device because we aren't using it anymore. We will go ahead and leave our serial begin command in here. That all looks good. And then let's see what we are doing with the, let's see what we are doing here. We are setting up a variable of our right value. I am really not sure why I did that there. Let's move that back up with our normal stuff. I think that would be better put up here with our variables. I don't know how that ended up down there, to be honest with you. Okay, and then we're going to start out by calculating a right value that's based on velocity. Well, we'll be setting the desired velocity from here, so we've got to make sure that the first time through the loop there is a v value. Yes, v is set at an initial value of 1.2, and I do believe that is in feet per second. So it's got a starting value. We just want to make sure the thing doesn't crash the first time that we write it, the first time that we run it. And then from that, we calculate a right value for the left wheel and the right wheel, and that again is just an initial value that's set on the initial velocity. And then we do a set speed. Why do we do a set speed? Because what if you just told the car to go, like go forward or go backward, and you had not set a speed? Well, you need to have a speed in case no one has set the speed. And the first time through, it is going to be based on this 1.2 that we put up here. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so then we come down here, and we go ahead and set the speed, just so the first command, the first time that we tell the car to do something, it will for sure have a speed. And we probably should, let's see what we did up here on distance. Yeah, and the distance is initially set to 1. So it's got a speed and a distance in case we don't set one from our Bluetooth controller. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to read the command here. So this was reading the command. Well, we're not going to be reading it from the infrared anymore. We are going to be reading it from Bluetooth. But the good news is the way that you read from Bluetooth, once you put, let me see if I can switch over here. Once you put this little Bluetooth module in here, when you do a serial.read, it is just, this is kind of like hijacking your UART, or it's hijacking the TXRX, or it's hijacking the serial interface, and whatever you would do as a read, it is just going to read from the Bluetooth. So that kind of makes it that makes it easy. But we've got to not read. We have to not read until there is something there. So I'm going to say while, and I like to use parentheses, while serial.available equal 0. So what do we do while serial.available equals 0? We do absolutely nothing. We sit and wait. Now what do we do? Well, if we get out of that, then it means there's something to read. That means that a command has been sent. So we need to read the command, and it's going to be done by cmd is equal to serial.read, and just like that, right? We're not doing a read string, we're reading a character, and so it is as simple as that, not forgetting the semicolon. And let's see, I do believe that I ended up with an extra close here. So maybe it had auto-closed that and I manually closed it, but I think that we should be right now. Now what this is doing is this was printing the command. We don't want to do that anymore. Okay, so now I have the command. Instead of coming from the remote, it came from Bluetooth. Okay, so now what do we want to do? Well, now the command is just read into CMD, so I'm going to say if CMD, and instead of all of this nonsense, let's just say that if CMD, this was for forward, if CMD is equal to F. Now what I want to do to be consistent, I'm going to make all my letters, all my commands, lowercase and one character. Lowercase and one character. So the command for forward will be F. And then here, this is going to be backwards, so the command for backwards will be B, like that. So if the Bluetooth sends F, it's going to call the forward function. If the Bluetooth sends B, it is going to go to the backward function. All right. Now this one is going to be right, so we will make this R for right. And again, each one of these, it should just be very simple like that. Do you see how easy this is if we use the code that we did before? And now this is going to be left, and we'll come in like that. All right. Now this one is going to be, the pound is going to set the distance. And so here we're just going to call for distance. If we want to set the distance, we're just going to look for a lowercase d. Well, I better, yeah, it's not a variable, it is a string, so we will be looking for the lowercase d. I want to make sure that I wasn't using the d that I'd use for distance, but that's a variable. That should be okay. And then again, we will just make this command D. Okay, now what we are going to do is we will just wait about 100, just give it a chance to do the read before you go to read the next thing. But if you say you're going to set the distance, that needs to follow inside that if statement. Inside that if statement, with what distance do you want? So if it's D, we then are going to do another read, but we will not want to do an IR read, so I'm going to take that out, and then I'm going to, this is going to be while serial.available equals 0. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm just replacing all of the commands with all of the infrared commands with Bluetooth, but now I do actually need to read that, so I'm going to say cmd is equal to serial.read. I'm going to read a char, I'm going to read that character, and then I'm going to put a little delay in. And now remember how we had this sort of goofy thing in here? The first thing is we say, if you tell it to go 0, then go 0. Well, I'm just not going to do that, right? I'm not going to put in a 0 distance because that doesn't make sense. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if your command now was to go 1, and remember, if you read a 1, it's going to be a char, so you need to put it in the quotes. It's the character 1, not the number 1. It's not an integer 1. It's looking for that character 1 that's coming from Bluetooth. Because when we do a read, we're reading a character, not an int. Okay, then we set D to 1. And now if command is equal, can you guess? 2. And then if command is equal, 3, I'm looking for all of these different distance commands coming from the Bluetooth. Okay, we are up to 4. Guys, and if you didn't do lesson 13, go back and do it, because you need to understand what you're doing and not just blindly do what I'm doing. I really explained this program completely in lesson number 13, and then lesson number 14 we talked about how to do a simple Bluetooth. So we're kind of bringing it all together in this lesson, and this will be done in no time. So now this is going to be a 6, and then this is going to be a 7. Okay, and then this is going to be an 8. And then this is going to be a 9. And so this would be, we wanted to go 9 feet. And so command was 9. We will set distance to 9. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now we've got to look for if the command was a star. Well, now it's not. We're going to be not looking for a star, but we're going to be looking for a, let's just call it an S. Okay, if an S was selected, set speed. So we got to remember the variables that we use. We'll probably have to check back here, because we're going to have to program this thing. I remember they're all lowercase, but we've got to make sure that we send the command that this is indeed looking for. So if the command is S for speed, then we will set speed. And again, we don't read it from the IR. We don't turn the IR on. And then this is going to be, instead of that IR command, it is going to be while serial.available equal 0. What do we do? Absolutely nothing. And now what do we do? Well, once we have something, we need to read it. So again, command is equal to serial.read. That will read that char. We're going to delay, and then we don't really need to print it. Okay, and then I'm not going to check for 0 again, because it doesn't make sense to set the velocity to 0. So I'm not going to check for a velocity of 0. We'll just take that out. And so the first one would be a relative velocity of 1. So we will check for a relative velocity of 1. That's that kind of slowest speed that you can go. And then here we will be looking for a relative velocity of 2. And then here we will be looking for a relative velocity of 3. And then we're getting through this pretty quick. Relative velocity of 4. Relative velocity of 5. I always get nervous when I'm going so fast, like how many crazy mistakes am I making that I'm not even seeing. But this is pretty straightforward if we're just careful. Again, the hard work was in lesson 13, and if you haven't seen that, make sure you go back and watch it and understand it. We're up to a relative velocity of 7. Okay, we're going to come in and make this a relative velocity of 8. Okay, and this will be our last one. And that last one will be 9, like that. Okay, then it's set to 9. Then based on that, it calculates the velocity based on the relative velocity, and we went through the math on this in lesson number 13. And then we don't want to do this IR resume because we don't have anything, we don't have the infrared library in there anymore. And then we would come down here and let's see if there is anything down there that we need to do in particular. Just kind of looking over my code here. Seeing if there's anything else that we need to do. And I think all of this stuff I'm just going to take out. And so I just set the velocity, and then I end that big if statement, and then I end the void loop with this one. And I think that makes sense. Now, where does it actually do something? Well, if I do the set speed, it just calculates the v. Okay, if I do the set distance, it just sets the distance, but it doesn't really go. To make it go, I have to do one of these commands, which is F for forward, B for back, R for right, and L for left. That is what will actually make it do something. So let's go ahead now. Let's see if we can download it. Now, we can't really test the program because to test it, we're going to have to send those commands. But do you see what we did? We took the working program. We took the working program that was designed to use the little remote, and we changed all the little remote commands to Bluetooth commands, and the Bluetooth commands were actually easier. Okay, they were actually easier than the infrared commands. They were just that serial.read. So I'm going to plug this in, and remember that the Bluetooth module hijacks the USB, the UART, the TX-RX. So we've got to take it out, put it to the side, plug it in. We got the happy little turn on noise. And now let's see what kind of nonsense we're going to get if we download this. How many? Oh, man. Okay, what did it not like here? Command, if command dot value. Let's see, it did not like that. Let's see. Oh. Did you guys yell at me for that? I didn't take the value out of that one. Okay, right. It should have just been if command. So that was a rookie mistake. Hopefully you guys caught that and were yelling at me when I did that. All right. Okay, so it actually downloaded. That's kind of good. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to unplug it, and I'm going to put the Bluetooth back in. And then we're going to kind of set the car to the side because there's nothing really we can do to the car until we have programmed up the Bluetooth. So let me see if I can get this where you can get a nice view. And I might have to take a second. To get my focus going where you can see things. So let me see, we're going to call up the Elegoo Smart Car. Okay. Okay, so we've got this. And then let's see, I guess you guys would probably rather see it like this, and that's pretty good focus. So let's program this. So let me just go back just to make sure, right, that we've got, remember how we downloaded in lesson number 14, we downloaded this little Elegoo BLE tool. You can go to iPhone or you can go to Android, search on Elegoo BLE tool, and then we are going to open that up, and we want to come over here to the Smart Robot Car, and then it says to download the new instructions. If you don't have it, we want to go to DIY control. Okay, and then we want to come over here and we want to start programming these buttons. Okay, so I'm going to come here, and this button name, this is going to be my forward button, so I'm going to call it go, just because this will make it go. And then let me show you this view here just for a second. We need to come back over here and make sure for forward what was our letter. I'm pretty sure we use little f, yeah. We are looking in the code for little f, so that's what we need to send it is little f. And so we would send a little f, and we want to send it as a character. Now we could have just gone in and programmed all that hexadecimal in, but that would have been a lot more hard. It would have been easier on the Arduino side, but it'd be a lot harder on this side. So I just decided to make it simple things, okay? And then I think I'm going to give that like an orange color. Okay, so we have our go button. I can't resist. Could we actually test this right now? I think maybe we could. Could we? Let me see. I'm going to turn the car on. Okay. And then let's see if I hit go. It says, do you want to connect? Yeah, let's see if it'll find it. Okay, now it's connected, and now let's just see if it reads that. Shazam! Did you see that? And it was about 1 foot. So the reason, I'm not going to test it at each command, but I just want to make sure that we are kind of all talking here on the same channel, if you know what I mean. Okay, so now this one, let's set this to say that this is going to be, and I think I will make these like I think I will make these, what color would I want to make these? I think I'll make these yellow. And so this is going to be where we set the distance, and then we're going to do a little d for distance. Okay, and then that was the pretty yellow. So that will program the distance, and then this one is going to program the, let's see, what was the other one that we did? Velocity. Did we say V or S? I think we said S. And so I will just say that this is S, like that. And then the message I want to send is lowercase s, because that is what the smart car is looking for. And then we'll make that yellow like that. So that will be looking for speed. And I thought I said yellow, mister. Okay, yellow. And that's going to send the character S. All right. Now we are going to need to come here and now send numbers. And so this is going to be the button 1. And we will send the character 1. Right, not the number 1, it is the character 1. And then let's make that green. So I've got the 1 programmed. Now let's make it a 2. Let's make this a 2. All right, is that making sense? I hope you guys can see this pretty well. This is pretty straightforward. And let's make that yellow again. Ooh, no, that was green. Okay. Do you see how I'm trying to get kind of a nice looking keyboard here? And so this is a 3, this is a 3, and that's a green. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, and now here I'll come down here and I will put D4, the 4, and the green. Okay, now I will put 5, 5. Man, this is going to be done in no time. Green. Okay, 6, 6, 6, green, thank you. And now in the home stretch, the button will be 7, 7, green. Okay, and then this is going to be 8, and this is going to be 8. And that's going to be green. Okay, and now we are in need of a 9. So we are really going fast here. That'll be green. Okay, now we need to have a button here, which would be back. Let's see if we can say back. I hope, and then that would be a B, I do believe. Let's go back and let's make sure what we said there for back. F, yeah, for backwards we wanted the letter B. So we are right there. Okay, so back is B, And then let's make this a orange as well. Okay, so you see go and back look kind of good. You see how I'm trying to get nice looking colors. Now this is going to be right. Let's see if that fits. And I think that we used a R for that, a lowercase r. That looks good. And let's see if we can do a pretty blue there. Okay, and now this one, let's make left. And that looked pretty good. It looks like 4 letters isn't too much. Okay. And we were using that pretty blue there. Okay. Go, back, set distance, set speed, 1 through 9, back, right, and left. Man, that just really went very quickly, didn't it? That was pretty neat. Okay, so now that was fun, but the question is it going to work? So let's get the smart car up here, and let me see if I can kind of give you a reasonable view. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then it's going to be kind of hard for me to show you both at the same time, but I'll do the best I can. Let's just say go. It should go about a foot. Okay, yeah. Note to self, turn the car on before you try to talk to it. All right, so now it looks like it's on. It says, do you want to connect? Yes, I want to connect. Okay, so let's try the go. Yep, that was forward. That was backwards. Let's do a right turn. Yep, they were opposite. A left, yes. Now let's do a distance. Let's see if we can do like a distance of 5. So this should be a lot further. So D, 5. Okay, now let's go. Yeah, do you see how that stayed on a lot longer? And now let's do a speed of 1. Okay, and let's go. Okay, that sounds pretty slow. And now let's do a speed of 9. And now let's go. Yeah, much faster. And then back. Okay, so what am I doing? I am just sitting here before we go out to the test track. Before we go out to the test track, I just wanted to make sure that it works here. But now let's go over and let's go to Robocam. We're going to go over to Robocam and we're going to see if this thing actually works. All right, hold your breath. I better take a big swig of coffee. Okay, so here we are, and I am going to set it on a distance of 2 and a speed of 9. Distance of 2 and speed of 9. Shazam! Did you see that? Exactly 2 and back 2. Okay? What if I go a speed of 1 and now I say go? Okay? And it looks like it was not calibrated very well there. Oh no, it was 2. Okay, yeah, that's fine. And now back. It was a speed of 1, not a distance of 1. Okay, so now let's go a distance of 3 and go 1, 2, 3. And now let's go back. And here it comes back. All right. Now I'm going to do a speed of, let's say, 5 and a distance of 5. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. And now I'm going to go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that is looking pretty good. But now let's go speed of 9, S9, okay, and let's go a distance of 8, and let's see how that goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right on the money. Now I'm going to see if I can turn it around. So I'm going to go right. Okay, and I'm going to go right. And now I'm going to come back. So I'm going to say go. And you can see that it came back. But you can see that my turning isn't exactly calibrated. We calibrated that several lessons ago, so we would need to go in and tweak that. When I'm saying turn 90, it's turning more than 90. Okay, it's turning more than 90. So I would need to tweak that particular adjustable parameter. Also, I've got several of these smart cars, and I'm not sure that I had calibrated this one. It might have been a different one that I had calibrated. But what you can see is that this is really working. Also, when we were using the infrared remote, do you remember that when it got out there, that if I turned it around, okay, if I turned it around, you would then lose connection with it, right? You would lose connection with it. And now we're not losing connection with it. Okay? All right. Okay, guys, we are back. And I'll tell you, that is just super, super, super exciting to me. And the reason it's exciting because I played around with it a lot more than just what I did there. And what I can say is that the Bluetooth is just way, way, way more well behaved than the infrared remote. And in all the playing that I did with this, I didn't have any problems at all on the Bluetooth. It syncs up well. What I also like is I like how easy it was to program up these buttons. And so I think that I am just not going to fool with this anymore. The nice thing about it is you learned how infrared works. You learned how to use the infrared remote. And I think those things were worth the effort just to learn those things. But hold on just a second here. Okay. I think it was worth it to learn those things. But I think moving forward in the future, we are going to want to just use this. Okay, some of those buttons are green, and the green buttons become transparent. That's kind of funny. Okay, green screen artifact there. So we have got this thing where we can drive it pretty good. What I would say though is that at this point, the major limitation as far as now, I could just sit here and I could kind of drive it around the room with this remote. But I think what I would like is, I would like more of an ability to set how far that I want to turn it. And so I think what I would like to do, and I'm trying to look at the number of buttons that I have, I think what I would like to do is I would like to be able to turn it different amounts. So instead of just left and right, I think what I would like is sort of like if you look on this, kind of like a little jog right and a jog left. We need to calibrate the right and left where they're closer to 90 degrees, because I think it's good just to have a 90 degrees to the right and a 90 degrees to the left. 180 you can just get with two 90s. Okay, you can turn it around with two 90s, so I don't think that we need a button for that. Well, yeah, let's do that. So let's add one button to turn it around, which would be 180. And then let's do kind of a jog right and a jog left, which would just be 5 or 10 degrees, so that if we have this thing, what we could do is if we want to turn it, we could turn it smaller increments. So we could kind of go where we're going, then click, 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 and then drive, and then click, 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 and then drive. And so kind of like 5 or 10 degrees, you're going to have to play around with it, but you want to just sort of increment or decrement your turn value sort of 5 degrees at a time. And then that would allow you to sit here and kind of drive the thing around. At least that's the way that I'm seeing it. So your assignment for next week is to get this where your left and right are calibrated more closely to 90 degrees. You'll have to tweak a line of code in there to get that working a little better. Maybe yours was working better than mine was, but you want to do that. And then you want sort of like a 180 button here, and then you want like a jog left and a jog right that'll just change it by a few degrees so that you could drive this thing around. So guys, I am having a lot of fun with this, and I am really excited about the Bluetooth. I mean, it is like this thing works so much better with Bluetooth, and now you could also see that there are more buttons. Let me get out of your way a little bit here. You can also see that there are more screens so that you could come over here to a whole new screen of buttons. And so we could just program these things up to whatever we wanted, because whatever button we press, we can send a command. And then on the Arduino side, we can do what we want with that command. So if we wanted to put a rocket launcher on this thing, we could have the big red button that would fire the rocket. So I think it's pretty neat, and this will be the direction I will be going in the future. Okay, guys, I hope you're having as much fun with this little Elegoo Smart Car as I am. Leave your comments down below. Are you guys following along? Is it making sense? You sort of see the direction that we're going? Okay, I think that pretty much is a wrap for today. This is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.